Welcome to Poirot Stories. I'm Preston Flint. If you're new here, we dive into the world of Hercule Poirot with tales inspired by the Queen of Crime herself, Agatha Christie. Grab a cup of tea, settle into your favorite chair, and let's embark on a journey of intrigue and deduction. Today, we're presenting a brand new original mystery, Slain Envoy of Argent Court, a Hercule Poirot murder mystery. This is a long one, perfect for those cozy evenings, over 90 minutes of storytelling to keep you guessing. I'll be narrating in a warm, conversational style, taking our time to build the suspense. And remember, if you're enjoying this, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Is it a rainy London afternoon or a sunny spot across the pond? Chapter 1. The Invitation to Argent Court. The year was 1925, and London wore its autumn cloak with a certain melancholic grace. The leaves in Hyde Park had turned to shades of amber and rust, crunching under the polished boots of gentlemen hurrying to their clubs, while the Thames fog rolled in each evening like an uninvited guest, muffling the cries of newsboys and the clip-clop of horse-drawn hansoms, yielding ground to the growl of motor taxis. It was a time of transition. The war's shadows lingered. Jazz seeped into drawing rooms from across the Atlantic, and society fluttered with the bright young things chasing frivolity amid the ruins of empire. In a modest but impeccably ordered flat on Whitehaven Mansions, Hercule Poirot sat by his gas fire, a cup of thick, sweet chocolate in hand. The little Belgian detective, with his egg-shaped head, meticulous parting in his hair, and that famous moustache waxed to perfection, two symmetrical points like the antennae of some exotic insect, gazed out at the drizzle-streaked window. His green eyes, sharp as a stiletto, betrayed a restlessness. Cases had been scarce of late. The criminal classes seemed to have taken a holiday, leaving him to ponder the symmetry of his own boot trees, or the precise folding of his handkerchiefs. "Ah, mon ami," he sighed to the "are too kind, Hastings. Sit. And tell me, what news from the world? Any scandals in the clubs? Murders most foul?" Hastings chuckled, settling into the armchair. "Nothing so exciting, I'm afraid. Just the usual chatter, stock market jitters, that flap over the Eldorian delegation in town. You know, that tiny principality squeezed between the Balkans and nowhere. Their envoys making waves. Sir Victor, something or other. Rumours of secret treaties and all that rot." Poirot leaned forward, his interest piqued. Eldoria, a name that conjured images of misty mountains, ancient castles, and political intrigues as tangled as a Persian knot. Ah yes, Sir Victor Krasnov, a man of stature, both literal and figurative. I have read of him in the dispatches. He negotiates alliances, but beneath lies the shadow of revolution. And you say he is in London? "Stirring up the Foreign Office, from what I hear," Hastings replied, buttering a scone liberally. "But enough of that. What's on your mind? You look like a cat who's spotted a particularly elusive mouse." Before Poirot could respond, there came a knock at the door, firm, authoritative. Poirot's valet, George, announced a messenger. The man, clad in a smart livery of silver and blue, handed over a thick envelope sealed with crimson wax, embossed with a crest, a silver eagle, clutching a sceptre, the arms of Argent Court. Poirot broke the seal with deliberate care, unfolding the heavy vellum. "From Lord Reginald Argent," he murmured, his moustache quivering slightly. He read aloud, "My dear Monsieur Poirot, your fame has reached even the secluded halls of Argent Court. I extend a personal invitation to you and Captain Hastings for a weekend gathering at my estate in Sussex. Among our guests will be Sir Victor Krasnov, the Eldorian envoy, whose visit coincides with matters of great delicacy, international accords, perhaps even treasures from Eldoria's vaults. Your presence would lend distinction. And who knows, your little grey cells might find amusement in our little circle. Do say yes. Yours, Reginald Argent. Hastings whistled low. Argent Court. In the streets. Royalists in the palaces. Treaties with Britain could mean millions in trade or war. And Argent? His ships ply those waters. There is motive here, mon ami, though veiled. Hastings grinned. A weekend in the country. Fresh air. Hunting, perhaps. I'm in if you are. Bien sûr, Poirot agreed. We depart tomorrow. Pack your tweeds, Hastings, and I my magnifying glass, though one hopes it remains unused. The following day dawned brighter, the train from Victoria Station cutting through the suburbs into the lush Sussex countryside. Fields of golden stubble stretched under a pale blue sky, dotted with sheep and ancient oaks. Poirot and Hastings shared a first-class compartment, the detective sipping from a thermos of tisane, while Hastings devoured a detective novel. Not as good as your cases, old boy, he muttered. Argent Court emerged like a vision from a watercolor, a Palladian masterpiece of pale stone, with columns flanking the entrance, wings extending like welcoming arms, and gardens terraced down to a lake where swans glided serenely. Ivy climbed the walls in artistic abandon, and the air carried the scent of wood smoke and roses past their bloom. A butler, starched and impassive, ushered them inside. The hall was a marvel, marble floors echoing their steps, portraits of Argent's past glaring down with powdered wigs and stern miens, a grandfather clock ticking solemnly like the heartbeat of the house. Lord Reginald Argent awaited, tall and imposing in a tweed suit, his silver hair cropped short, a monocle dangling from his lapel. Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings, capital of you to come. His handshake was firm, his voice clipped like a military command. Lady Evelyn descended the grand staircase, a vision in emerald silk that hugged her slender figure, pearls gleaming at her throat. Her eyes, a striking violet, held a warmth tempered by caution. Welcome to our home, she said, her voice melodious with a hint of continental lilt from her travels. We've heard such tales of your exploits. It quite sets the heart racing. Miss Clara Argent bounced in next, a whirlwind of energy at 20 years old. Her flapper dress shimmered with beads, her dark gambling habit soothed by laudanum prescriptions. Mr. Geoffrey Vale, the businessman, puffed a cigar in the corner, his portly frame straining a waistcoat embroidered with gold thread. A self-made man from the Midlands, his mustache was bushy and unkempt compared to Poirot's artistry. Argent and I go way back, he boomed. Eldorian mines, diamonds, gold, you name it. Krasnov's the key to it all. Tricky blighter, though. And then the envoy himself. Sir Victor Krasnov entered like a storm cloud, broad-shouldered and bearded, his suit tailored in Savile Row, but with an Eastern flair, a crimson tie-pin shaped like Eldoria's eagle. His accent rolled like thunder from the Carpathians. Monsieur Poirot, in Eldoria, your name is legend. You solve impossibilities, da? Here, perhaps you will find one. As aperitifs were served, dry martinis for the moderns, brandy for the traditional, conversations flowed like the champagne. Lord Argent spoke of his shipping lines, how Eldoria's ports could expand empires. Lady Evelyn reminisced about her grand tour, her eyes lingering on Krasnov a fraction too long. Miss Clara flirted shamelessly, asking the envoy about forbidden dances in foreign courts. Poirot observed it all, his little grey cells cataloguing nuances. Lord Argent's jaw tightened when Krasnov mentioned debts unpaid from joint ventures. Lady Evelyn's fan fluttered rapidly at tales of past liaisons. Had she known Krasnov in Vienna years ago? Miss Clara whispered secrets to the envoy, her cheeks flushing. Vale argued heatedly over contract terms, his face reddening. Dr. Thorne prescribed a powder for Krasnov's nerves, his hand steady, but eyes evasive. Dinner was announced, a gong resounding through the halls. The dining room gleamed with crystal and silver, candelabra casting a golden glow on damask cloths. Courses unfolded, consommé, poached salmon, roast beef with Yorkshire pudding, ending with charlotte russe. Wines from Bordeaux flowed freely. Krasnov dominated the table talk. Eldoria is rich, artifacts from Roman times, jewels hidden in mountains. But politics, dangerous. Alliances must be forged, or lavish suite, with a four-poster bed and views of the moonlit lake. "Rest well," he called. "Tomorrow, revelations!" Little did they know, revelation would come in the form of death. But for now, the house settled into silence, secrets brewing like storm clouds. And there ends Chapter 1, dear listeners. The stage is set, the players assembled. What intrigues await? If this has hooked you, like and subscribe for Chapter 2 soon. Tell me your thoughts. Who seems most suspicious already? And where are you joining from today? Until next time, keep those deductions sharp. This is Preston Flint, signing off for now. Chapter 2. The Locked Door of Doom. The first light of dawn crept over the Sussex hills like a hesitant intruder, painting the sky in strokes of pale pink and gold. Argent Court, that grand bastion of Georgian splendor, slumbered peacefully under a blanket of dew-kissed mist. The lake mirrored the awakening world, swans gliding silently, as if guardians of unspoken secrets. Birds twittered in the ancient oaks, oblivious to the tragedy that had unfolded in the night's deepest hours. Hercule Poirot, ever the creature of habit, had risen with the sun. He despised the disarray of a late start. His morning ritual was as precise as a Swiss watch. After a light breakfast of croissants, imported from a discreet baker in Soho, and a restorative tisane, he ventured into the gardens with Captain Hastings at his side. The air was crisp, carrying the earthy scent of fallen leaves and damp soil. Poirot inhaled deeply, adjusting his Homburg hat against the chill. "Observe, Hastings," he said, gesturing with his cane to the symmetrical parterres of boxwood hedges. "See how nature imposes order upon chaos. The roses, though wilting, maintain their form. So too must the mind of the detective. Last night's gathering, it was a symphony of undercurrents. Lord Argent's clenched fist upon the brandy glass, Lady Evelyn's averted gaze, the envoy's booming laughter, masking what? Unease? Hastings gravel paths, as the household stirred like a disturbed ant-hill. Servants peeked from windows. The butler rang a frantic bell. By the time Poirot and Hastings reached the terrace, the entire party had converged in various states of dishevelment. Lord Argent in his dressing gown, face ashen. Lady Evelyn clutching a shawl, her auburn hair tousled. Mr. Vale knotting his tie hastily. Dr. Thorne already slipping into his professional demeanor, stethoscope around his neck. Miss Clara stood at the door to the east wing, her flapper poise shattered, hands trembling as she pointed. "It's Sir Victor. His door. It's locked and there's blood seeping underneath. I knocked to bring his morning tea, and, oh merciful heaven." Lord Argent shouldered forward, pounding on the heavy oak door with his fist. "Krasnov! Sir Victor! Open up, man! Are you ill?" Silence, only the echo of his knocks. Vale joined him, applying brute force. "Stand back, we'll break it down." Dr. Thorne interjected, his voice quavering. "Wait, we must be careful. If it's a medical emergency." But panic overrode caution. With a combined heave, Argent and Vale splintered the lock, the door crashing inward on protesting hinges. A wave of stale air, mingled with the metallic tang of blood, wafted out. The room was a chamber of opulent horror. Sunlight streamed through lace curtains, illuminating the Persian rug strewn with scattered papers. Diplomatic missives, maps of Eldoria's borders, a jewel-encrusted dagger case, open and empty. The four-poster bed, its canopy of crimson velvet undisturbed, bore no sign of sleep. And there, sprawled in the center of the rug like a discarded puppet, lay Sir Victor Krasnov. The envoy's massive frame was twisted unnaturally, his nightshirt soaked crimson around a hilt protruding from his chest. The jeweled dagger, that very heirloom he'd brandished at dinner with tales of Eldorian princes, had been plunged deep, straight to the heart. His bearded face, to confirm. Indeed, Monsieur Poirot. Stabbed through the heart. Instant death. No other injuries. But the door, locked from inside, key in the lock. Windows bolted. No forced entry. Lord Argent, regaining control, bellowed for the butler. "Jenkins, telephone the police at once, and the magistrate. No one leaves the house." As the call was made, Poirot continued his examination. The windows, tall and sash-style, were indeed secure, their latches gleaming untouched. No footprints marred the flower-beds below, still pristine with dew. The fireplace grate held ashes from a recent fire, and there, partially burned, fragments of a letter. "Must repay the debt, or I expose your treachery to the Eldorian court." Signed, V.K. "Ah," Poirot murmured, using tweezers from his pocket to retrieve the scraps. "Blackmail? Or business gone sour?" Vale paced, sweating despite the chill. "This is madness. Krasnov was vital to my deals. Who'd want him dead?" Suspicions ignited like dry tinder. Lady Evelyn admitted tearfully, I visited him last night, around 10, to return a book he'd lent me. The door was ajar then. We spoke briefly. He seemed troubled, mentioned old times in Vienna. But he was alive when I left." Miss Clara, dabbing her eyes, added, "I heard footsteps in the hall about 11. Thought it was a servant." Then silence. Lord Argent frowned. "I was in my study till midnight going over accounts. Krasnov and I had words at dinner over that cursed investment. He owed me thousands from Eldorian shipping failures. But murder? Absurd." Dr. Thorne fidgeted. "I checked on him at 9:30. He complained of heartburn from the rich food. I gave him a sedative powder. The door was unlocked. He locked it after I left." Vale grunted. "I couldn't sleep. Paced the corridors till 1. Saw nothing, heard nothing. But yes, Krasnov was undercutting my mining contracts. Rival? Perhaps. Killer? Never." Poirot rose, dusting his knees. "Alibis, motives, they will be tested. But first, the household was herded to the drawing room, where tea was served amid tense whispers. Poirot, excused to investigate further, pored over details. A faint scratch on the doorframe, perhaps from a duplicate key. No. A thread of silk caught in the rug, matching Lady Evelyn's gown. Intriguing. A smudge of mud on the floorboards, akin to Vale's boots from the gardens. Hastings joined him. "Poirot, this is straight out of one of your tales. The locked room, like that business at the mill house." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Exactamo. But each puzzle has its unique solution. Here, the key lies in the overlooked. The burned letter. Reconstruct it. Debt. Exposure. Betrayal. Who owed whom? And why burn only part?" As Grimes interviewed, cracks appeared. A maid recalled seeing Dr. Thorne near the east wing at midnight. looking peaky. Miss Clara's handkerchief, monogrammed, found near the body. Dropped in shock or planted? Lady Evelyn broke down. Victor and I. We were lovers once, in my youth. He promised marriage, then jilted me for politics. Last night, he hinted at renewing. I refused. Lord Argent's face darkened. That explains his smugness. But I lost a fortune backing his regime. Vale snarled. And I lose millions if Eldoria folds without him. Dr. Thorne paled. I treated his family once. A sister, consumptive. She died. He blamed me. Poirot gathered scraps of the letter, piecing, You will pay for her death, Thorne, or I tell all. The web tightened. As noon approached, Poirot stood at the window, gazing at the serene lake. The killer walks among us, Hastings, and the door holds the secret. But for now, Argent Court was a prison of suspicion, the locked door of doom, sealing fates unknown. Chapter 3. The Web of Alibis. The afternoon sun slanted through the tall windows of Argent Court's library, casting long shadows across Sussex. Captain Hastings hovered nearby, eager as a pup. Where do we start, Poirot? The family? The doctor? Poirot adjusted his tie-pin, a discreet emerald that caught the light. We start with reconstruction, mon ami. The timeline is the skeleton. Alibis are the flesh. We must probe gently, like a surgeon's scalpel, to reveal the rot beneath. They began with Lord Reginald Argent, summoned first as host and discoverer. He entered the library with the bearing of a man accustomed to command, though his eyes were bloodshot from strain, his monocle dangling unused. Sinking into a wing-back chair, he lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. Lord Argent, Poirot began smoothly, perching on the desk's edge like an inquisitive bird. Let us revisit the evening. Dinner concluded at 10, yes? What then? Argent exhaled smoke, staring at the Persian carpet. Precisely. The ladies withdrew, and we men lingered over port. Krasnov was boastful, droning on about Eldoria's riches, how Britain needed him more than he needed us. Around 11, I excused myself to my study adjacent to the East Wing. Accounts to review, shipping manifests tied to Eldorian ports. I heard nothing amiss. No cries, no footsteps beyond the usual creaks of an old house. Grimes grunted. And this debt? The burned letter mentions repayment. Argent's jaw tightened. A business matter. I invested heavily in Krasnov's regime 2 years ago. Loans for infrastructure. Returns were promised in minerals, but revolution stalled it. He owed me £50,000, not the reverse. That letter fragment? Likely a bluff to pressure me into renegotiating. Poirot leaned in. And you argued at dinner. A difference of opinion, nothing more. I retired at midnight, locked my door. My valet can confirm. He brought a nightcap at 11:30. Hastings whispered later. Solid enough, eh? Too solid, perhaps, Poirot mused. Now, the wife. Lady Evelyn entered next, a vision of composed grief, in a black morning dress hastily donned, her pearls replaced by a simple brooch. She dabbed complications. A letter he claimed to have, proving something scandalous. I burned any such nonsense years ago. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The torn lace on your gown from yesterday, found near the East Wing Hall, a mishap in the garden earlier. Nothing more. As she departed, Poirot murmured to Hastings, She conceals depths, like the lake outside. Now, the daughter, Miss Clara Argent, flounced in, her bobbed hair dishevelled, eyes puffy from tears, but sparking with defiance. The modern girl, clad in a simple frock, lit a cigarette defiantly, despite Grimes's frown. "Miss Clara," Poirot began, "your discovery this morning. Traumatic. But last night," she exhaled smoke rings. "After Mother and I chatted, I went to my room at 11. Read a bit of Scott Fitzgerald. Thrilling stuff. But I couldn't sleep. Around 11:30, I heard a door creak in the hall. The east wing. Peeked out. Saw a shadow, but thought it was Father. Then silence. I slipped out later, midnight maybe, for a stroll in the gardens. Needed air. Saw Mr. Vale lurking about the fountain. Grimes perked up. Alibi? My maid saw me return at 12:30. And Sir Victor, he was kind to me at dinner. Slipped me a note about a secret. Something about Eldorian jewels hidden here. Flirtatious nonsense. But I liked him. Who'd kill him? Poirot noted her diary, glimpsed earlier in her room, entries hinting at a forbidden romance. The handkerchief found in the room? Mine. Must have dropped it when I screamed this morning. Hastings later. Flighty girl. Secret admirer? Or accomplice? Poirot replied. Next, the businessman. Mr. Geoffrey Vale lumbered in, cigar clamped in teeth, his waistcoat straining. Sweat beaded his brow despite the cool room. "Mr. Vale," Poirot said, "you're pacing the halls?" Vale snorted, guilty as charged. Indigestion from the beef, or worry. Krasnov was blocking my mining concession in Eldoria. He'd taken bribes from rivals, undercutting me by 20%. I confronted him briefly after dinner, in the smoking room, 11-ish. He laughed. Sister's death? Thorne paled. Tragic. Treated her in London 5 years ago. Tuberculosis complicated by misdiagnosis. Krasnov blamed me, threatened suits, but settled out of court. That letter? He was blackmailing me anew. Poirot. Access to poisons? The dagger wound clean, but perhaps drugged first? No, I swear. But I did hear a thud at 11:45, thought it imagination. Interrogations complete, Poirot gathered physical clues. Back in the sealed room with Grimes's permission, he pored over details. The key, inside the lock. No string or mechanism visible. Windows. A faint smudge on the glass, pollen from the garden. The rug, fibers matching Thorne's tweed jacket. Scattered papers. A forged treaty accusing Argent of espionage. Hastings. Alibis overlap, but gaps everywhere between 11 and midnight. Poirot nodded. Exactement. The web spins. Debts, affairs, blackmail, rivalry, medical malice. But one thread pulls taut. The footprint mud. Vale's boot, but also garden soil. With rare Eldorian mineral traces. Krasnov's shoes. Grimes sealed statements. Round 'em up in the drawing room. No one leaves. As evening fell, tension mounted. Servants whispered of ghosts in the east wing. Poirot paced the hall, reconstructing. 9:30, Thorne leaves. 10:15, Evelyn visits. 11 men disperse. 11:30, creak heard. Midnight, Vale Gardens. 12 shadow. A servant saw a figure in cloak at 11:45. Hastings added. Poirot's mustache twitched. The killer timed it perfectly. But why overturn the chair? Staging distraction. Dinner was a somber affair. Suspects eyeing each other over cold cuts. Lady Evelyn dropped a spoon at Vale's glare. Clara excused herself pale. Thorne dosed himself with brandy. Poirot confided in Hastings by the fire later. False clues abound. The handkerchief planted. The mud transferred. Logical deduction. The killer had a master key. Or inside help. A hive. Ah, the atmosphere thickens, he murmured to Captain Hastings, who piled eggs onto his plate with forced cheer. Like a pea-soup fog in London. obscuring the path. Today we chase the red herrings, those false scents that lure the hound astray. Hastings nodded, mouth full. Jolly good. Where to start? That will in the telegram. Clara inherits jewels? Precisely, mon ami. But first, the physical clues. We must examine them under the microscope of logic. With Grimes' grudging permission, Poirot returned to the sealed bedroom, now guarded by a constable dozing on a chair. The room retained its macabre aura. The bloodstain on the rug darkened to rust, Krasnov's body removed to the icehouse for autopsy, but traces lingered like ghosts. Poirot donned his gloves again, kneeling to scrutinize the floorboards. "See here, Hastings," he said, pointing to a faint scuff mark near the window. "A boot heel, size 10, perhaps Vale's. But wait, the mud. I took a sample yesterday." From his pocket, he produced a vial, holding it to the light. Garden soil, yes, but mixed with kaolin clay, rare in Sussex, common in Eldorian pottery. Krasnov's own shoes bear it from travel. Transferred? Or a visitor from his homeland? Hastings scratched his head. Red herring? Someone planting evidence? Oui, and this. Poirot lifted the overturned chair, revealing a hidden compartment in its leg, a small cache with a folded note. Meet me at midnight. E. Lady Evelyn's initial? Forged, perhaps. The handwriting slopes left, unusual for her right-handed elegance. They moved to the fireplace. The burned letter fragments pieced on the desk like a jigsaw. You must pay. Betrayal. Thorn. But closer inspection with a magnifying glass revealed ink smudges, fresh, not matching Krasnov's fountain pen on the bureau. Downstairs, Grimes convened a search of quarters. In Vale's room, muddy boots cleaned hastily, a map of Eldoria annotated with Block Krasnov in red ink. Motive reinforced, but a receipt for a duplicate key from a London locksmith? Exposure. But I burned his threats myself. That laced hair? From brambles when I walked the grounds at 11, distraught after our chat. Poirot's eyes softened, and the child mentioned a rumor, miscarriage long ago. Reginald knows nothing. False trail, paternity scandal? But dates didn't align with Clara's age. Miss Clara's quarters. Her diary, hidden under mattresses, brimmed with youthful angst. Entries. VK promises adventure. Jewels for our elopement. Father would kill us. The will's bequest of artifacts, worth thousands, painted her as heiress with motive. Confronted over tea, she laughed nervously. Flirtation. He was old enough to be my uncle, but yes, I sneaked to his room at 11:45. Door ajar, left a note about meeting. Found him asleep, left. The handkerchief? Planted by jealous mother. Grimes. Opportunity, but her footprints, dainty, no match to the scuff. Dr. Thorne's bag, searched. Vials of sedatives, a surgical dagger similar to the murder weapon. For procedures, he twitched. And a telegram. Sister's death avenged, VK. Sent posthumously? No. Dated yesterday. I received it, Thorne stammered in interrogation. Blackmail renewed. I confronted him at 9, left angry. But asleep by 10 in my room. Valet confirms. Red herring piled. A poisoned glass beside the bed. Lab tests from the local chemist showed mere water with lemon. The poison rumor from a maid overhearing Thorne's mutters about dosing. Actually, indigestion pills. Lord Argent's study. Ledgers showing reversed debt. Krasnov owed him. But a hidden drawer with Eldorian bonds forged, implicating Argent in counterfeiting. For collateral, he claimed. Krasnov threatened exposure. Poirot gathered the threads in the drawing room as rain pattered. These clues, they point everywhere and nowhere. The boot mud transferred via a shared umbrella stand. The note, forged with a left-handed glove. The shadow, the gardener, lured by a fake note from Vale. Hastings. It's a... Night fell. Poirot examined the door again. A hairline crack in the frame. Forced? No. The killer used misdirection masterfully. But one herring swallowed whole. A suicide note draft in Krasnov's hand, planted in Thorne's bag. Obvious plant. Poirot dismissed. The chase continued. Clues misleading. Truth elusive. Tomorrow, twists would complicate further. Chapter 5. Complications and Twists. The storm that had been brewing all day finally broke over Argent Court as twilight bled into night, a tempest straight from the pages of a Gothic novel. Thunder growled like an angry beast across the Sussex Downs, lightning fracturing the sky in jagged veins, illuminating the manor's facade in stark flashes. Rain lashed the windows like accusatory fingers, turning the gardens into a quagmire and the lake into a churning cauldron. Inside, the house seemed to groan with the wind, drafts whistling through keyholes, and secrets alike. Power flickered in the electric lights, a modern convenience installed only last year, plunging rooms into momentary darkness that heightened every creak and whisper. Hercule Poirot stood in the library, a single lamp casting a pool of light on the scattered clues, the reconstructed letter fragments, the forged note, the mud vial. Captain Hastings paced nearby, his face etched with frustration. Dash it all, Poirot! These red herrings are endless. Vale's key, Thorne's dagger, Clara's diary. It's like chasing will-o'-the-wisps. Poirot, unfazed, stroked his moustache. Patience, mon ami. Complications arise to test the detective. But see? The storm, it mirrors the turmoil within. Tonight, truths will surface amid the chaos. Inspector Grimes burst in, soaked from supervising constables outside, his moustache drooping like a wilted fern. Blasted weather! Cut the telephone lines! Downed tree on the road! We're isolated till morning. And get this, autopsy report by telegram before the storm hit. Krasnov wasn't just stabbed. Trace of curare on the dagger tip. A South American poison paralyzing instantly. Thorne forgotten portraits. Tears streaked her face as she clutched yellowed letters. It's here. Proof. Sir Victor was my real father. Mother's affair. He came to claim me, with jewels as inheritance. But father, Lord Argent, knew, and Lady Evelyn, following them, gasped. Clara, no. It was a lie Victor spun to manipulate. The child was lost, but he forged documents to blackmail us both. Twist upon twist. The letters, dated 1905, detailed an elopement plan aborted. Clara's motive skyrocketed. Patricide or contested inheritance? But her sobs seemed genuine. I loved him as a mentor. I went to his room at midnight to confess. Found him dead already, dagger in chest. Panicked, fled. Grimes, skeptical. No blood on your dress? None, I swear. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The timing, midnight. But rigor suggests death at 11:45. You saw the body post-mortem? Another complication. Dr. Thorne administered smelling salts to the fainting Lady Evelyn, but his hand shook, revealing a hidden hypodermic in his sleeve. For emergencies, he muttered. Analysis of Krasnov's blood, rushed sample, showed no curare. The dagger residue, a plant extract mimic, harmless. Red herring evolved into misdirection. As power failed completely, candles were lit, casting flickering shadows that played tricks. In the gloom, Mr. Vale argued heatedly with Lord Argent over brandy. Your forgeries ruined the deals. Krasnov discovered them. That's why he burned the letter exposing you. Argent retorted. Lies! It was your mining scam he uncovered. A scuffle ensued, fists flew, a vase shattered. Constables separated them, but in the melee, a hidden panel in the library wall swung open. A secret passage. Dust billowed out, maps on the floor showing tunnels from the Civil War era linking the study to the East Wing bedroom. Mon Dieu! Poirot exclaimed, lantern in hand. The locked door explained? Entry via passage. The group explored the narrow corridor, cobwebbed and damp, emerging behind a false bookshelf in Krasnov's room. Bag, grazing Hastings' arm. You meddlesome fool! Krasnov ruined me! Grimes subdued him, but Thorne gasped. It wasn't me. I used the passage to retrieve blackmail letters at 11:30. Found him alive, arguing with Shadow. Incomplete confession. Blood from Hastings' wound. Tested later? No, but panic ensued. Lady Evelyn revealed more. I followed Victor through the passage once, years ago. He flirted with secrets. Vale's alibi cracked. Garden mud was alibi for passage exit. As midnight stormed, Poirot assembled scraps. Twists. The curare herring to implicate doctor. Passage to dismiss locked room. Paternity to distract from finances. Hastings bandaged. Who then? The gray cells whirl. One more twist, the dagger. Eldorian, but hilt loosened, as if to frame suicide. Thunder clapped approval. Isolation bred paranoia. Servants refused to serve, whispers of curses. Poirot confided. Tomorrow, revelation. But tonight, guard doors. Complications peaked, twists coiling like the storm. Truth lurked in the eye. Chapter 6. The Revelation. The storm had spent its fury by dawn, leaving Argent Court draped in a serene hush, the air washed clean and the gardens glistening like emeralds under a pale sun. Puddles reflected the sky, and birdsong replaced thunder, as if nature itself conspired to clear the stage for revelation. The household gathered in the drawing room, bleary-eyed from a sleepless night. Lord Argent, stern in his armchair, Lady Evelyn pale by the window, Miss Clara huddled with a shawl, Mr. Vale nursing a bruise from the scuffle, Dr. Thorne bandaged and guarded by a constable. Inspector Grimes stood sentinel, notebook poised, while servants hovered with coffee trays, the aroma a small comfort amid the tension. Hercule Poirot entered last, his step measured, mustache waxed to impeccable points, a faint smile playing on his lips. Captain Hastings, arm slung in a makeshift bandage, followed loyally. The little Belgian surveyed the room like a conductor before the orchestra. Conservatory Jasmine, mimicking poison to implicate Dr. Thorne, whose medical bag held curiosities. The autopsy confirmed. Death by stab alone. No toxin. A red herring to distract. Lady Evelyn gasped. But the motives? My past? The letters? Poirot raised a hand. Ah, madame. Motives abound like autumn leaves, but one buries the truth. Lord Argent. Financial debt reversed. Krasnov owed you, but you forged bonds to cover losses. Exposed in his papers. Mr. Vale. Mining rivalries. Bribery in the valet's satchel, proving your corruption. Miss Clara, the false paternity, spun by Krasnov to manipulate inheritance, the codicil disinheriting you anyway. Dr. Thorne, blackmail over the sister's death, but settled, renewed only in forgeries. Vale snorted. So who then? The butler? Poirot's eyes gleamed. Patience. The timeline. 9:30. Thorne visits with sedative. Harmless. 10:15. Lady Evelyn chats briefly. 11 o'clock. Men disperse. 11:30. Creak heard. The passage panel. 11:45. Thud of death. Midnight. Clara peeks and flees. The locked door trick. Not string through keyhole, too obvious, risky in storm drafts. No, the killer entered via passage at 11:30, stabbed Krasnov awake and arguing, the overturned chair from struggle, then exited the door normally, locking it from outside with a duplicate key. Wax impression made earlier from the disguise paperweight in the study. But wait, the key inside? Swapped via a magnetized rod through the gap under the door, fishing the real key back after inserting a fake that jammed later. The scratch on the frame, from the rod. Grimes nodded slowly. Clever. But prints? Wiped on the dagger, but overlooked. A fiber from the killer's cuff on the rod, hidden in the passage. Thorne twitched. Not me! Poirot turned to him. Ah, doctor, your twitch betrays. You knew the passage from treating the family. Explored as a boy with Lord Argent. No, your motive, not just the sister. Garden vent. Clara saw you flee, mistook for ghost. The forged notes, the paternity lie, you planted them using Krasnov's pen stolen earlier to scatter blame. Evelyn's initial. Vale's maps annotated in your left-handed slope disguised. Lady Argent sobbed. Why implicate us all? To hide in the chaos, Poirot said. Your twitch, nerves from guilt, and the final twist, you confessed partially last night to Hastings Gray's, but lied about seeing a shadow. It was your reflection in the mirror. Thorne crumpled, face ashen. Yes. Damn you. Krasnov knew everything. The embezzlement, the misdiagnosis cover-up. He demanded half my fortune or exposure ruining my practice. I snapped. The passage, I found plans in old medical records of the house. Thought the locked room would baffle. But you infernal muster. Grimes cuffed him. Elias Thorne, you're nicked for murder. The room exhaled. Lord Argent nodded grimly. Justice. Poirot explained further, logical process, dismiss impossibilities, suicide angle wrong, poison fake. Motives weighed, finance common, but Thorne's desperation unique. The telegram threat timed perfectly. Clues converged, medical access for staging, knowledge of poisons for misdirection. The rod, deduced from frame scratch and magnet filings in your bag for coin tricks in nervous habits. Hastings beamed. Brilliant, Poirot! As Thorne was led away, Poirot addressed all. The revelation. Not whodunit alone, but how and why. Order restored from chaos. Sunlight broke fully, gilding the revelation. The envoy's death avenged, secrets laid bare. Chapter 7. Justice served. With the confession hanging in the air like the last echoes of thunder, Argent Court's drawing room fell into a profound silence, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the distant drip of rain from the eaves. Sunlight streamed through the windows, gilding the Persian rugs and mahogany furniture in a golden hue, as if the estate itself breathed a sigh of relief. Dr. Elias Thorne sat slumped in his chair, the nervous twitch that had defined him now a full commerce, and Dr. Thorne's shadowed past. Krasnov arrived with secrets, treaties, debts, blackmail. Dinner sowed seeds. The envoy's boasts, subtle threats in accents and glances. Grimes interjected gruffly. The murder night. Reconstruct. Oui. 9 p.m. Thorne administers sedative, actually a mild, harmless powder, but plants the idea of dosing. He knows Krasnov's habits from medical history shared earlier. 10:15. Lady Evelyn visits, leaves agitated but innocent. 11. Men retire. Thorne, feigning reading, prepares. He accesses the study, open to guests, takes wax for key impression earlier in the day, disguised as admiring artifacts. Lord Argent frowned. The passage key? Indeed. Thorne, familiar with the house from years of visits, treating ailments, knowing blueprints from a hypochondriac ancestor, revives the passage. At 11:30, he enters via the library panel, confronts Krasnov awake with papers. Argument escalates. "Pay for my silence on your embezzlement," Krasnov demands. Wait. Reversed. Thorn embezzled from Eldorian patients via fake treatments, siphoning funds to cover gambling debts. Krasnov, investigating alliances, uncovered ledgers. Thorn muttered, "He had proof." Ruin. Poirot nodded. Rage. Thorn stabs with the heirloom dagger, grabbed from the display at dinner, pocketed during toasts. Struggle overturns chair. Krasnov slumps. Thorn stages, burns partial letter, his own blackmail response. Scatters papers, exits the door, unlocked by Krasnov for expected visitor? No. Forced, quietly. Locks from outside with duplicate, uses magnet rod from his medical kit for stirring solutions, under door to swap keys. Real inside, fake outside, later discarded in lake. Lady Evelyn dabbed her eyes. The red herrings? Masterful misdirection. Curare sap on dagger, from conservatory plant, to implicate his profession. Mud transfer to Vale's boots, via shared hall stand, glove planted. Forged notes in rooms, paternity for Clara, using old police motor, bound for London trial. Evidence bagged. The magnet rod dredged from passage, fibers matching his tweed. Kaolin clay vials. Lord Argent extended a hand to Poirot. "Monsieur, you saved us from ruin. The forgeries, my desperation, but innocent of blood." Lady Evelyn embraced Clara. "Secrets buried now. We heal." Vale tipped his hat. Business resumes. Cleanly. As the household dispersed, Poirot and Hastings strolled the gardens, swans gliding serenely. "A satisfying close, Hastings. Order from disorder." Hastings chuckled. "Jolly good show, but how'd you spot the rod?" "Deduction. Scratch angle, metallic filings in dust. Logic demands." Back in London, days later, newspapers hailed, "Poirot solves impossible slaying." Thorn hanged after trial. Motives laid bare. Argent Court restored. Family bonds mended. Justice served. The envoy avenged. A testament to the mind over malice. Chapter 8. Echoes of Justice. In the weeks following Dr. Elias Thorn's arrest, Argent Court basked in a tranquility that belied the horrors it had witnessed. The Sussex estate, with its ivy-clad walls and manicured lawns now bursting into late autumn blooms, seemed to shed the shadows of suspicion like a snake sloughing skin. The storm's ravages were mended. Downed trees cleared. Telephone lines restrung. The cracked window in the east wing replaced with fresh panes that caught the sunlight anew. Servants bustled with renewed vigor, polishing silver and airing rooms, as if erasing the metallic tang of blood and the acrid smoke of deceit. Lord Reginald Argent, ever the stoic patriarch, oversaw the restorations from his study. The secret passage sealed permanently with brick and mortar. A symbolic burial of the house's darker histories. His shipping enterprises, untarnished by the scandal thanks to Poirot's discreet handling, began to rebound. Eldoria's new envoy, a less flamboyant diplomat, arrived to negotiate studies in London, diplomacy and languages, inspired by Krasnov's artifacts, bequeathed genuinely to the British Museum. "I thought adventure was jewels and elopements," she told Hastings during a farewell visit, her voice steadier now. "But it's facing the storm, isn't it? Like father's hedges, trimmed order, from wild growth. Mr. Geoffrey Vale departed soonest, his portly frame squeezed into a Rolls-Royce bound for the city. The bribery papers from the valet's satchel cleared his name marginally. A rival's set-up, he claimed, but scarred his dealings. Eldorian mines fell to competitors, yet he pivoted to African ventures, puffing cigars with forced jollity. "That sawbones nearly ruined me," he grumbled to reporters at the station. "But Poirot's fair play sorted the wheat from chaff." Inspector Grimes, promoted for his role, though Poirot's shadow loomed large, returned to Sussex with tales that swelled in pub retellings. "Locked room? Pah! Belgian magic," he'd boast over pints. The trial was swift. Thorne, in the dock at the Old Bailey, recounted his downfall in a monotone. Embezzlement from vulnerable exiles, the sister's death a convenient scapegoat, Krasnov's confrontation the spark. Sentenced to hang, his final words echoed regret. "Greed twitched me to madness." The noose fell, justice echoing coldly. Back in London, Hercule Poirot received the accolades with modest grace. Newspapers splashed headlines. "Poirot unlocks impossible crime." Fan letters piled on his desk, alongside invitations to lecture at Scotland Yard. He sorted them methodically, his valet George brewing tisane to perfection. "Ah, Hastings," Poirot said one crisp evening, as they dined on sole meunière at Simpson's in the Strand. The restaurant hummed with clinking cutlery and murmured conversations, gas lamps casting a warm glow. "Another case concluded. The echoes of justice, they resonate longest in the human heart." Hastings, the estate's ivy, unchecked growth, strangles. They strolled the embankment afterward, the Thames lapping dark waters under moonlight. Poirot paused at the railing. Justice served, but echoes linger. Forgiveness for the innocent, caution for all. Months later, a parcel arrived at Argent Court. Poirot's gift, a rare book on Eldorian history, inscribed, "To Order from Chaos." The family gathered in the drawing room, fire crackling as in the beginning. Lord Argent raised a toast. "To absent friends and present peace," Lady Evelyn smiled. "And to the detective who echoed justice through the storm." Clara added, "May our echoes be kinder." In Whitehaven Mansions, Poirot filed the case notes, mustache twitching in satisfaction. Another triumph, echoes fading into legend. The slain envoy's spirit rested. Argent Court's halls echoed with hope anew. Justice, like symmetry, endures. Chapter 9. Lingering Shadows and New Dawns. Months blurred into seasons at Argent Court, the Sussex estate transforming under winter's frost and spring's tentative green. The matter, once a stage for Murder Most Foul, now echoed with subtler dramas, the whisper of wind through sealed passages, the patter of rain on mended roofs, and the quiet turning of pages in rebuilt lives. Lord Reginald Argent, his stern jaw softened by time, stood on the terrace one crisp morning in early 1926, gazing over the lake, where swans glided as serenely as before the storm. The secret passage, bricked up under his orders, became a family legend, a cautionary tale whispered to guests over port. Hidden doors lead to hidden sins. Lady Evelyn, her auburn hair streaked with premature silver from the ordeal, found purpose in the gardens. She cultivated jasmine vines anew in the conservatory, the very plant whose sap had mimicked poison, symbolizing resilience. "Shadows linger," she wrote in her diary, entries now shared with Clara, "but dawns break if we prune the weeds." Her past with Krasnov, dissected in the trial's glare, evolved into quiet advocacy. She lobbied Parliament for women's diplomatic roles, channeling old regrets into reform. A letter from Poirot arrived that spring. "Madame, The heart heals inheritance from Krasnov. Authentic jewels sold for charity. Funded scholarships for orphan girls. Echoing justice beyond the grave. Mr. Geoffrey Vale, ever the survivor, rebuilt his empire from a Mayfair office, cigars perpetually lit. The bribery scandal nipped his heels, but Poirot's testimony cleared him of murder complicity. "That Belgian saved my bacon!" he boomed to associates over luncheons at the Savoy. Eldorian mines slipped away, pivoting him to rubber plantations in Malaya. Yet a lingering shadow. Anonymous letters hinting at unfinished business from Krasnov's rivals. He hired private guards, glancing over shoulders in foggy streets. In London, Hercule Poirot's flat at Whitehaven Mansions remained a haven of order. Boot trees aligned, tisane steaming. The case's echoes reached him in clippings and calls. Inspector Grimes, now Chief Inspector, dropped by unannounced one afternoon, hat in hand. "Mr. Poirot, that Thorn business. Promoted me, it did. But echoes. Eldorian exiles stirring, claiming Krasnov's death was no lone act, but conspiracy tied to treaties." Poirot, polishing a monocle, raised an eyebrow. "Ah, mon inspecteur, shadows indeed. Thorn confessed solitude, but motives ripple. I dismissed espionage as herring, yet—" Captain Hastings burst in then, golf clubs clattering. "Poirot, read this. Telegram from Argent. Another puzzle?" The wire read, "Strange occurrences. Anonymous notes threatening exposure of remaining secrets. Shadows in the passage walls. Need your cells. R. Argent." Poirot's moustache quivered. "C'est intriguant. Thorn hanged, but echoes suggest an accomplice. Perhaps the valet who arrived late, or a servant blackmailed." They motored to Sussex that weekend, the rolls purring through hedgerows. Argent Court greeted them changed. Wisteria bloomed over the bricked passage entrance, but tension hummed. Lord Argent explained in the library, brandy poured. "Since the trial, oddities. Papers misplaced. A dagger replica vanished from the study. Clara found a hidden compartment in Krasnov's old luggage. More codices bluffed, but papers in pocket. Mine claims tied to the funds." "No," Poirot declared. "You returned for the map, knowing from Krasnov's deals. Thorn, your reluctant ally. You supplied the magnet rod from business gadgets, framed to take the fall if caught." Vale crumbled under logic. "Krasnov blocked everything. Thorn stabbed. I staged herrings remotely, sent anonymous threats to stir chaos. But the funds, mine by rights." Arrest followed swiftly. Grimes alerted. Vale extradited for conspiracy. The ring unraveled. Banker arrested. Funds seized for Eldoria's refugees. The family exhaled anew. Echoes silenced. Argent toasted. Poirot and Hastings departed at dawn, mist rising. Another layer, Hastings. Justice echoes eternally. Back in London, Poirot filed notes. Case reopened, shadows dispelled. New dawns beckoned, a Orient Express invitation loomed. Lingering shadows faded, new puzzles dawned. The envoy's true legacy, truth's endless pursuit. Chapter 10. The Eternal Puzzle. As spring fully unfurled its banners over England in 1926, the ripples from Argent Court spread far beyond Sussex hills, touching the corridors of power in Whitehall and the shadowy underbelly of London's fog-shrouded alleys. Hercule Poirot, back in his Whitehaven Mansions sanctuary, arranged his morning correspondence with precision. Invitations to teas, queries from aspiring detectives, and a discreet envelope from the Foreign Office sealed with wax. The slain envoy case, ostensibly closed with Thorn's execution and Vale's imprisonment, had evolved into something grander, an eternal puzzle, where one solution birthed a dozen enigmas. Captain Hastings, ever the enthusiastic companion, burst in mid-morning, newspaper in hand. Poirot! Front page again. Eldorian conspiracy unearthed. Belgian sleuth foils international plot. Veils singing like a canary in the dock. Implicated half the city in embezzlement rings. Poirot, savouring a croissant flaked to perfection, nodded serenely. Ah, Hastings, the puzzle Poirot's logic saved empires, he declared to the press. Lady Evelyn's advocacy bore fruit. A parliamentary bill for female envoys passed committee, inspired by her poise under fire. She visited Poirot in London, pearls gleaming. Monsieur, your unveiling freed me. The eternal puzzle of womanhood, secrets society imposes. Krasnov's shadow taught strength. Clara, now engaged to her archaeologist, sent artifacts from a dig. An Eldorian amulet inscribed with riddles. For your collection, her note read, puzzles connect us. Even Inspector Grimes, promoted to superintendent, owed his rise. Echoes keep comin', he grumbled in a pub meet. Eldorian exiles thank you. Stability returns, revolution quelled. But new dawns brought fresh shadows. The Foreign Office envelope. Monsieur Poirot, sensitive matter. Orient Express incident. A passenger vanished en route from Istanbul. Ties to Eldorian jewels. Smuggled post-Krasnov. Your discretion required. Poirot's eyes sparkled. Ah, the eternal puzzle expands. Trains, borders, hidden compartments. Like our passage, but mobile. Hastings packed eagerly. Adventure again! En route to Victoria Station, Poirot reflected. Cases link like chainmail. Argent's locked room mirrored life's illusions. Doors we lock on truths. Thorns twitch. Humanity's frailty. Veils greed. Society's undercurrent in this jazz age of excess. Aboard the Simplon Orient, opulent cars rattling through Europe, intrigue brewed. Passengers. A countess with Eldorian accent, a banker echoing Veil's type, a doctor twitching nervously. Poirot observed. Shadows follow. A note slipped under cabin door. The envoy's true treasure hunts you. Beware the dagger's echo. Deduction began. Vanished man. Smuggler of the Swiss funds map. Countess complicit? In the dining car, over caviar, Poirot mused to Hastings. Eternal puzzle. Motives evolve. Love, greed, power. Constance. Twist. The doctor. Thorne's former assistant, seeking revenge or remnants. Confrontation in the Calais coach.